Good morning, traders. Today is Thursday, November 18th. My name is Charles, and this is the Pirate Traders live stream. All right. Well, this morning I'm forced to remind myself once again of a very simple fact that is certainly true in this market, which is that momentum is more important than weakness. Okay? It's easy to get distracted by the amount of weakness below this market that is desperately in need of repair, but you can't discount momentum. If they can keep the momentum going, then they can keep it going. It's a silly thing to say, but that's just kind of how it works. Jim Dalton says traders will do what works until it doesn't. And right now we have some momentum. It's not very strong, but it's there. And we can, of course, see that in the higher lows each day, right? We've had consistent higher lows pretty much since the 10th. Nonstop every day, higher lows in the market. So on the daily basis, the market has some momentum to the upside. So to me, it's pretty hard to make a longer term call here on the market this morning, as I feel like there's momentum up, but there's weakness down. So I can make a 50-50 argument for where the market's going to go. So this morning, it'll be important whether we open above yesterday's high or below. We're right on it at the moment. Opening above would give us a gap, and a gap is a signal of momentum. So we'd want to first look for a gap fill that finds support at yesterday's high, and then see if we can get continuation higher from there. If so, that would be very bullish. If we don't have a gap and we open inside of yesterday's range, I know it seems silly. It's like, Charles, so you're saying if we open $1 higher, it means one thing, $1 lower, it means another. What's the difference? Like, does it really matter? It does. So if we open inside of yesterday's range, that increases the odds of chop. So the market's likely to just kind of grind around in here. So it won't be as strong of a signal in terms of finding support. Okay. So even just opening $1 higher where we have a little gap, we can look for the gap fill and then support from there. Whereas if we open a little bit lower inside yesterday's range, we're likely to just kind of do this. So it'll be much harder to read that support. Overnight inventory is net long, not wildly so, but it is net long. So we would expect some sort of counter auction to the downside. And again, if there's a gap, you would expect to potentially find support at yesterday's high. If there's no gap, you want to look to this node of volume from the upper end up here yesterday. So right around that 89 to 90 level for support. And then likely the market just bounces, grinds between this node just above yesterday's high from the overnight and that node there. Okay. So as it starts to work its way below that node, as it gets below 89, you could target these weak references here for repair and then monitor for continuation. If it gets below there, it's likely to come down and repair these. It either finds support and heads back up, or it's going to head down to repair the poor low. It either finds support and heads back up, or you get continuation lower. Right? And you just kind of start going one by one, monitoring for continuation. Once it takes out that low, does it repair this? Does it repair this? Does it come back into these single prints? Does it repair this? So on and so forth. All right, so let's see where we opened. All right, so we did open like literally a couple ticks above yesterday's high, and we got no support at yesterday's high. So that is a sign of less bullishness than we would normally expect on a gap up. So I think we're probably just going to get some chop here. So as I just mentioned, looking for support right around that 88, 89 level. Really the 89 level. Again, we are expecting a counter auction to the downside. So, Charles, that was really confusing what you just said. Are you bullish or bearish? Would you just make it simple for us? The honest to God truth is I just don't know this morning. It's too many mixed signals. Value was overlapping to lower yesterday, which increases the odds that we're either going to move sideways or down today, but yet we gapped up. So those are like contradictory signals. We've had those higher lows, like I said, for the last few days, consistently one over another, which is a sign of momentum to the upside, but we've done it on poor structure. which is a sign of weakness and a need of a pullback. So there's just a lot of mixed signals from the market here. I think there's some uncertainty on a longer term basis. What I can tell you, though, is if we can get back above that all-time high here today and come back down and find support, that is a very good trade for continuation higher, even as a swing trade, because the market should be balancing here. And so if it breaks out above that balance, balance leads to excess. So that could be a great long trade up there. But in between here and here, I pretty much feel like it's anybody's ball game. I don't know if Donkey's here yet this morning, but he said something yesterday in the private stream that really struck with me. It struck a chord, as they say. And I was thinking about it all night last night. And we were talking about discretionary trading, right? Do traders who are just taking discretionary trades really have an advantage over algorithms that can use backtesting to improve consistently and then, constantly get better and better and better and use a very systematic way of trading? And what Donkey said was, he said the advantage that retail discretionary traders have over both algorithms and the bigger hedge fund type of traders is that we don't have to take trades. We can be flat. And that is actually where our advantage is that we can wait for that perfect opportunity and only take trades then. And that is our edge. And I really was thinking about this, and I was like, fuck, that is so true. We don't have clients who expect us to be making profits for them every single day. We are not an algorithm that's forced to take a trade every single time because it meets those parameters. So our edge is really in not trading. As ridiculous as that sounds, that's where we have an advantage. So when you're uncertain about what's happening in the market, just don't trade. Just wait for those perfect opportunities. Please smash that like button. Let's get them going early in the morning. Quick little click. Shows the pirate you love him. Good morning, Philip. Good morning, Krister. Cyrus is here. Nicholas, good morning to you. Reggae Bobby in the house. Good morning. Vincent is here. Good to see you. Rad back with us. RK. RK, start show earlier so we can play all the ads. I'll start the show earlier if every single person will promise to watch the ad completely through. I just don't feel like they will. Lamus, good morning to you. Can you hear me? There's definitely sound. Nunez, good guy. Well, good guy to you. Tom, good morning. Alexander, good to see you. Jose, welcome. Two Manifs, good morning to you. Danielle, good to see you. Donkey is here. There you go. Welcome, Donkey. David Glass, good morning to you. All right, so we're pushing down into this potential support right here in this node between 89 and 89.75. So we'll look for some support there. Look for the volume to taper off and then push back up. If not, I think it's safe to say they're going to head down and repair these weak references down here. Certainly if we get below the the POC from yesterday, so 87.75. Ray, you really get around, round, get around. You get around. North Carolina this morning. Welcome. Chris, when in doubt, leave it out. Love it. David V, good morning to you. David Glass and David V in the house. Phoenix, good morning to you. Diane watched all the ads. Appreciate you, Diane. That's awesome. Man, Fist. I'm never going to get it, bro. It's never going to happen. You got to give up on that. You're man F's now, or whatever I said. Scoopall, hello. Henry, good morning. Bob Smith, a good Trinidad hello to you. I'm not sure what that means, but I'll take it. Hello to you. Pavel NQ is bullish. Let me go take a look. Oh boy. Almost exactly the same as the ES. It opened like a tick above yesterday's high. That's interesting. I would call this in the same scenario. It's not as weak. The structure is not as weak as the ES below. So yeah, I would say it's a little more bullish. But it's just kind of doing the exact same thing. Rotating, looking for support to push higher. It's also got a lot further to go to get to its all-time high. Or maybe not that much further. So yeah, I mean, I would say with the NQ, if they get above the overnight high here today, they're targeting that all-time high, without a doubt. So look for the market to push above that 16,412 level and then come back down and find support. If it does, look for continuation to repair that all-time high, which was poor. And then if they continue higher, find support to the moon, baby. Blue skies. Back to the ES. Diane, the NQ is bullish because of NVIDIA earnings. Could be. It's 100 stocks in that indice, though. Donkey's got some 4-hour trend lines. Yeah, that's clean. Yeah, I mean, those are the higher lows. That's the momentum. Momentum versus weak structure, as always with the ES. Jay Trader smashed that like button. Appreciate you, brother. Nunez looked like we found support. No, yes, sir. Found it right in that little node of volume. Bada boom. It's a good start. Next, we want to see the ticks getting strong. They're finding support at the 0 line, so that's a good first signal. But we want to see them continue to push higher, as that is a sign of the buyers stepping in. It's okay, taper at the low, but it's not amazing. Futures Trader, good morning to you. JG, good morning to you. Them ticks need to push. You got it, dude. PC like yesterday, the nicey week. NASDAQ goes up. ES maybe. Yeah, this is not the same as yesterday, but I see what you mean. It is funky how yesterday and today the ticks were a little weaker on the NASDAQ, yet the futures and the options are pushing higher. So they're selling underlying shares, but they're buying futures and options. Miles, good morning to you. David, is the difference between good taper and bad taper clarity of conviction? Good taper shows traders were clear about the direction, whereas bad taper means they were more confused. Kind of, yeah, that's one way to look at it. I look at it more quite literally in terms of a two-way auction process, right? So think about like an art auction as they're bidding the painting higher and higher and higher. there's like a certain price level where like 5 or 6 paddles will go up, and then they go a little higher and there's only 4 paddles that go up, and then they go a little higher and there's only 3, and then it gets down to it's just 2 people going back and forth, bidding it higher and higher, and then eventually there's only one person left who's willing to pay that higher price. So that's what taper is. It's like the process of watching the buyers if it's taper on the upside, or watching the sellers if it's taper on the downside, like completely run out. So when you see things like this, really the most important is like the bottom, say 4 ticks. But when you see something like this where there's like 800 contracts here and 900 below it, you're like, wait a second, why were there more sellers down here than up here? That's just a little funky. And so that just kind of increases the odds. But like I said, this is decent taper. It's just not amazing. But it's certainly nothing to like distract you from going long if you trust that support. Nunez, I've noticed the market profile information combined with MACD crossovers gives good entries. Glad to hear it, brother. I do find that's what a lot of people say. Whatever they currently use, so say they use MACD, RSI, VWAP, whatever the case may be, right? When they learn market profile, they find it adds to that other strategy. Just kind of gives us second opinion. NQ's pushing. They are. They're above the overnight high. All right. So they're above the overnight high. They're bringing in volume. If they can just start trending higher on these ticks, you can really trust this breakout for continuation. There's going to be some resistance if you look over here in this previous volume. There's going to be some resistance. They got to kind of grind their way through. But man, as soon as they're above that, that poor high is a very easy target. It's an all-time high and it's poor. So let's get them to pull back down, find some support, push those ticks up a little bit, and then we can really feel good. Back to the ES. Still just chopping. Choppity chops. Trading donkey. I love it. I actually think that's a good idea. You could always also do it with a paper account. You don't have to do it with real money. But yeah, I think that's a brilliant idea. If you took every single one of those trades and I don't know how you get out of them. That's the tricky part, is where you take profits. Because like those examples we were talking about yesterday, you could have just waited for cessation. But there are other days where that's not going to be as profitable. So the taking profits part's a little tricky, but man, just getting into every trade like that with brilliant risk reward and just being patient and waiting, because they don't set up that often. You get one every couple days. But yeah, man. Jitten, ticks won't matter kind of day again, Charles. Pumping the Trillion Club. Okay. Like I said, ticks aren't perfect. Internals aren't perfect. Sometimes they send you some mixed signals, and sometimes they're very hard to read. But I use them every single day, and I can tell you over time they are a very, very reliable signal. Case in point, the NASDAQ this morning, right? Broke out above its all-time high, should have been able to broke out above its overnight high, should have been able to take off like a rocket, but the ticks were bearish. And then it pulled back down. Yeah, I think that's a great strategy, Donkey. I love it. And I love that it's systematic. So you can test it and develop the system over time based on what works best. I fully support this idea. All right. Well, more and more, I'm feeling like they got to go repair that weakness they left behind yesterday. Certainly, at least these first 2 week references here, or 3 actually, 4 actually. There was an M period that was weak there too. I just didn't mark it. Remember, the more weak references you have stacked up on each other, the higher the probability that they get repaired. Okay, so if we push back up into this node around 91, 92-ish, that was acting as support earlier, that could act as resistance. Also, the halfback just above could act as resistance, which will likely take us down to take out these these weak references below and repair them. So I'll get bullish if we can get back above the halfback here. But otherwise, with the internals looking the way they are, methinks we need to pull back a little. LaFraz, good to see you. Welcome. Muhammad, a little. Yeah, I mean, like I said, so in a situation like this where we have contradicting narratives happening, we have higher lows consistently on the daily showing us that there's momentum. But then we had value overlapping to lower yesterday, which is a sign that that momentum is coming to an end. It's really kind of tough to make a call. So if I'm short, I'm going to do what's called monitoring for continuation, right? So I'm going to watch, comes up into here, gets some resistance, right? Can't get back any higher. I look to enter a short with a nice tight stop. And then as it pushes lower, I see, does it repair this? I don't take profits yet. I look to see after it repairs it and it starts to pull back up, does it get more resistance? Then I target the next poor low. When it repairs it, does it find support and start to head back up, or does it get more resistance? And so on and so forth, whilst it works its way lower to repair the weakness we've left behind. Monitoring for continuation. Basically means no specific target, just riding the wave as long as I can. Lamest, so far 50-50 chance. I would say the internals are giving us a bit of a signal. It's more probability to the downside. Call it 60-40. Call it 64-36. Skewball. Pirate traders, are you sure about playing shorts when the NQ is going up? Isn't it a signal to wait a little? Well, it's not like it's a short that I'm going to fall in love with and spend the rest of my day with. Like I said, I'm just looking to see what happens when it gets down here to repair these weak references. And not to be cheeky, but I don't trade the NQ. I trade the ES. They are different markets. Although they often move together, they don't have to. So I don't watch the NQ for signals on the ES. That's not true. Every now and then I might think about, if the NQ is super strong, but it's not super strong. It had a chance to break out to the upside and it pulled right back down. So that's not as strong as you think it is. Okay, we created a little poor low here in the B period. We often get a push away from the poor low, but then at some point come back to repair it. I didn't see it at the time, but that poor low is also the 20 moving average on the 15-minute candles, which explains the support there. Cajun Trader, double bottom possible. Yeah, I wouldn't think about it as a perfect double bottom, though. I would think they're going to get, if they were going to come down here to yesterday's low, they'd get at least 2 ticks below it to repair that poor reference. But yeah, certainly once they repair it, they can easily turn back around. Jitten, I was just thinking to myself, Jitten's probably buying this because he's seeing a poor low. Oh, that's so funny. But don't get confused by the push away. What happened yesterday is not common. The push away is to trick traders into going long so that the market can come back down and wipe them out. Still keep your eye focused on this resistance in here. Jitten, you think they're going to buy? Well, I wouldn't have bought the poor low, but I would have bought the. I didn't because I wasn't seeing it, but there would be nothing wrong with buying that 15 moving average. Sorry, 20 moving average on the 15-minute candles. But remember, that's only short-term support. It's just an algorithm that buys there, and it mindlessly buys every time the market pushes down. So that doesn't mean the sentiment of the market is bullish, just that the machine overpowered the short-term traders for a moment. But the more times you poke at it, the more likely you'll poke through. So if you guys think that they're going to hold the higher lows on the daily, just keep your eye on this resistance. Can they get above it? If they can push back through that, come back down and find support, yeah, then they can go higher. But this is the first bit of work. Um, yeah, Phoenix, there would never be a true double bottom. It's all about time frame, my friend. That's the problem. Is like when you say a double bottom, how often does a double bottom hold for a long period of time, right? Like years ago, the New York Fed did an exhaustive study on every single charting pattern that exists, like all the major ones anyway, on every single time frame, um, on like 1,000 different markets. Like they did this insane study where they tried it on 5-minute candles, 30, hourly, daily, blah, blah, blah. They tried every charting pattern on all of them and they back tested it. And they figured out that like 99% of the charting patterns are bullshit. They just don't work if you take them every single time. I think the only one that worked out was like Head and Shoulders and inverse Head and Shoulders, and it was only on longer term basis, like daily and monthly charts. But intraday, I don't really believe double bottoms work. I think the market comes back to repair them. Is just my opinion. How do I define a poor low? Is there a difference between a poor low and an incomplete low? Well, I'm not sure what an incomplete low is, but a poor low is just a sign that the market didn't get to finish its two-way auction to the downside. That's all. So we can see it on the ES if there's less than 2 ticks of excess. So if the B period had less than 2 ticks below the A, it would be poor. Okay. So the first 2-week references, first 4-week references are now repaired. And the next target is that poor low to the downside. Okay, getting a liquidation break here. Those long traders are starting to panic. They ignored the internals. Okay, poor low repaired. We're now monitoring for continuation to the downside. So we're looking for resistance. If we get it, continuation to the next week reference. Okay, they're bringing in support, so now we're looking for resistance. If they push back up and they start to find resistance somewhere in here, okay, they're likely to get continuation lower. Okay, so there's your first resistance. Looking for another push. Danielle, it's going down? Yes, ma'am. That it is. But how on earth could we have known? We've had higher lows every day. How on earth could we have had a signal that maybe the momentum was coming to an end? Well, we just looked at value yesterday, overlapping to lower. Increases the odds moving forward. We're either going to go sideways or lower. It's a sign that those higher lows, that momentum is coming to an end. Whoops. All right, I'm going to start trailing my stop here. Looks like the NQ bounced perfectly off its 20 moving average. Buyers are starting to step in here on the ticks. They're trying to save this thing. Can they do it? Or do we need to head down and repair these next week references? Muhammad, I love that. I hope it comes down quite a bit so I can buy it. That is the way to think about it. This is just a dip. The market needed it. It has a lot of weakness below, but we still have December coming. And so a rally after a dip would not be unreasonable if you're a swing trader. Jeremy, yeah, I mean, I would say there's nothing wrong with taking profits at the first week reference, but it might be better to have a few contracts. All right, I'm tightening up my stop here. So this resistance doesn't hold. We might push back up. But if it does hold, then we're looking to head down here to at least repair the weakness at 46.70, if not the poor low at 46.67. But yeah, Jeremy, the way you do that is you either just take partial profits, or once you take profits and you see the market continues, you get back in the short again. Remember, the more weak references there are, the higher probability that they will get repaired. So every day that we keep pushing higher, leaving weakness behind, it means at least the first of them needs to get repaired. Charles, another potential double bottom. Yeah, it could happen. But like I said, to me, it'd have to get 2 ticks below. So it wouldn't be exactly bottomed. But yeah, it's possible. Okay, so if they're going to save it here, they got to push these ticks back up. They got to head up to that 0 line. If not, the sellers will pile on again. Oh, this is the area. This is the node I was saying could act as a balance area low. We just had so much trade in there. I remember that now. So yeah, it would take some work to grind through that at this point. That's the support we're seeing. So if we don't find support after we repair the poor low, so if we get 2 ticks below the poor low and it doesn't turn around and start heading up there, we could get a really quick drop because of the single prints we left behind here in the D period on the 12th. Those single prints need backfilling. Okay, so there's the next 2 week references repaired. So the next drop could happen very quickly once we get into those single prints. Measure move could take us to 58. Jonathan, well, there you go. So would backfilling those single prints. That support would be right at 58.75. Take it to the limit. Do, 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 do. I don't know that we got good taper here at the low. So once again, I'm looking at the tick, seeing can they get back up to that 0 line? Can these buyers defend? Trader Thursdays are fun. You guys drive me crazy with your like, it's Wednesday. It has to reverse. It's Thursday. It's this, man. The market will do whatever it'll do whenever it wants. I've seen days like this on a Monday. I've seen days like this on a Friday. All right, so now we're pushing back up into resistance. Do those ticks stay down, or do the buyers start to buy it back up? Let's see what they got. And it's Friday in Australia. Great point, Jonathan. Excellent point. Oh, good call, Donkey. Tomorrow is options expiry. So oftentimes we get a really muted, kind of boring day, but anything can happen, especially with a lunar eclipse. Jay Trader, any thoughts on the moon phase trading? I looked at it. There was one point in my life where I looked at it, and it's one of those things when you look at it after the fact, it looks like it works. You feel like there's actually like a plugin on an indicator. I mean, on TradingView where you can put the moon like on there, and if you look at the daily, it looks like it works, but it's not tradable because in reality, it doesn't line up perfectly. Like, it's hard to explain, but it's not tradable in any way, shape, or form. But it is fun to look at after the fact and be like, "Oh my God, is this real? Does it do this?" All right, we're in resistance. We're fighting the good fight. They're trying to get those ticks back up to the zero line. This sell-off may be coming to an end. I'd say if they can get it back above 76.75, they can start to trade back up. But I'm still bearish as long as we're below that level. That's a great point, Tonky. Could just be those options. So like I said, to me, this is the resistance, the end of the resistance here. If they can get above that price, they can start to take it higher. But as long as they're below it, this poor low is calling the market's name. It's like, psst, hey, psst, I'm a giant magnet and I'm just tugging on you. Nor Auto Trader. Brother, you're late to the party. I'm done in like 3 minutes. But welcome. Thank you, Jay Trader. Man, if that's your answer, my friend, it only costs $10, dude. There's a lot of trading days in a month. It's like 20 or more trading days in a month. So for $10, I mean, what does that work out to? Like a quarter a day? 25 cents a day? You can do it. You can do it. All right, so printing the C period, we're leaving a ton of single prints behind on the B period. So those will need to backfill at some point. But the market is one time framing lower. And like I said, as long as this resistance holds that we're in right here, they can get another push lower. But this many single prints does increase the odds they'll need to backfill. Whoops. All right, well, with that, I'm going to bid you all farewell. Thank you so much for watching. Ooh, we just got above that level, 36.75. They're getting those ticks above the zero line. All right, we might be retracing these single prints as we speak. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you're not a member of the Brigade, please join. There's a link in the description. We'd love to have you. If not, I shall see you here tomorrow morning. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.